$10.5 million mansions, 35,000 square feet parsonages, 4 private jets, an oil empire, a retirement community never built, and a guard who pulled a gun on journalists asking where the money went. Okay, y'all, welcome back. We've been covering specific ministry scandals on this show for a while now. Daystar, Rachel, Doug Weiss, pimp pastors, forced giving. But today, I want to zoom out and look at the system that produces all of those specific scandals. Because it's not one pastor living off donor money in obscene luxury. It's a culture, a machine, a multi-billion-dollar operation that has been running for decades, extracting money from the poorest and most desperate people in America, shielding itself from accountability behind the cross and calling it the gospel. Today, we are going name by name, number by number, scripture by scripture. Let's go. Let's start with where they live, because these numbers alone should tell you something is deeply wrong. The mansions, by the numbers. Joel Osteen, $10.5 million mansion in Houston, Texas. Kenneth Copeland, $7 million mansion, 0 property tax as a parsonage. T.D. Jakes, $5.5 million mansion in Fort Worth, Texas. Creflo Dollar, $3.5 million mansion. Stephen Furtick, 16,000 square foot home in Weddington, North Carolina. Jesse Duplantis, 35,000 square foot parsonage, tax-free, funded by donors. Let me park on Jesse Duplantis for a second. 35,000 square feet. The average American home is about 2,300 square feet. Jesse Duplantis is living in what amounts to 15 American homes stacked together, classified as a parsonage, meaning the church owns it and he pays 0 property tax. The same exemption designed to help a modest, small-town pastor afford housing is being used to let a man live in a small castle, completely tax-free, funded by donor money. And Joel Osteen's $10.5 administered dollar compound in Houston, this is the same man who initially kept Lakewood Church closed during Hurricane Harvey while thousands of Houstonians were underwater. The contrast between what these men preach and how they actually live in a real crisis is the most honest thing about them. Now the Jets. Because this is where it stops being excessive and starts being theologically obscene.
World, right? And get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right. That's exactly the
and
point.
He called commercial airline passengers demons. This is a man worth somewhere between $300 million and $760 million who owns 4 aircraft, all maintained on donor money. And his justification for not flying commercially is that the very people filling out his tithe envelopes are demons he does not want to sit near. That is what Kenneth Copeland thinks of his own congregation. And Creflo Dollar, he asked 200,000 followers to each give $300 toward a $65 million Gulfstream G650. When people pushed back, his response was, if I want to believe God for a $65 million plane, you cannot stop me. He got the jet. Now let me spend real time on T.D. Jakes, because his theology of giving is the one that gets the least pushback, and it deserves the most honest examination. Jakes lives in a $5.5 million mansion in Fort Worth. He flies private. He has built a multi-platform media and entertainment empire, and he has preached the following from his own pulpit.
God is my business partner, and my giving to him is his cut. And if I rip off his cut, why should he bless me? I start giving on that level so that God would owe me. Oh, y'all don't hear what I'm saying? You can't handle that. I started giving on the level where I put God in debt, and God said, I'll owe no man. I started giving on the money that I wanted to make. I started giving on a deal that hadn't closed yet, and that God had to open up the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing because he wasn't going to be in debt.
Y'all, he said God had to bless him, that God was in debt to him because he gave first. That is not the gospel. That is vending machine theology. Insert the coin, God mechanically dispenses the blessing. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who spoke the universe into existence, who knows every star by name, is not in debt to anyone, not to TD Jakes, not to you, not to me. His blessings flow from his nature and his grace, not from a payment we made that he now has to honor. And when you teach people that God owes them based on what they give, you are teaching them to give to you because you're the one holding the receiver on their end of the transaction. Now, let me go deep on Copeland because his operation is the most thoroughly documented. For over 50 years, he has been raising money for the revival capital of the world. 6 promised developments on his 1,500-acre Fort Worth compound, including a resort hotel, a Kingdom Park, a radio and TV center, and most importantly, Wisdom Heights, a Christian retirement community where faithful donors could spend their final years. What actually exists after 50 years of fundraising? The ministry headquarters and TV center built because it serves his broadcast empire directly. The resort hotel never built. No blueprints filed, no utilities brought to the site. The Kingdom Park, a Frisbee golf course. That is it. Frisbee golf on land people donated to build a biblical paradise. Wisdom Heights retirement community, never built, not even attempted. There are elderly people right now whose parents gave their life savings believing they would retire in Wisdom Heights. Those parents are gone. The money built Kenneth Copeland's private hunting ranch, funded his oil wells, built his private airstrip named after himself, and paid for the armed security guard who pulled an actual gun on journalists who asked where the Wisdom Heights money went. 8,000 pieces of mail a month. People unable to pay rent, facing eviction, asking the ministry for help. Former employee Melissa said out of 8,000 pieces of mail per month, she saw maybe 3 or 4 people actually get helped. Everyone else, nothing. $760 million estimated personal net worth. 3 or 4 letters helped out of 8,000. A Frisbee golf course and a gun pulled on the journalist asking about the retirement community.
Now let me show you how these men protect themselves from financial accountability. Stephen Furtick at Elevation Church has a board of overseers that sets his salary. Sounds like accountability. But every member of that board is another megachurch pastor. The same men Furtick pays 6-figure fees to preach at Elevation conferences. And when they invite him to their churches, he gets 6-figure fees in return. A closed financial loop. Donor money funding everyone's speaking income while the board that's supposed to hold Furtick accountable is literally being paid by Furtick. When an investigative reporter asked Furtick about his salary, he did not answer. He preached a sermon about the reporter instead. And churches do not file Form 990s the way other nonprofits do. So the public has no legal mechanism to see where the money goes. Copeland's daughter Terry shut down even the basic donor summary reports that used to exist. No numbers, no percentages, nothing. That's not an accident. That is a design feature of the system.
Think about what it means to sit in a control room writing heartfelt spiritual content for someone you know is living a completely different reality. The cognitive dissonance required to maintain that every single workday is enormous. And according to people close to these industries, those producers eventually won't want to list these ministries on their resumes once the full picture reaches the mainstream. The institution is slowly becoming a love like Amy to everyone connected to it.
Let me lay out the mechanism specifically, because understanding it is how you protect yourself and your family. Step 1. Seed faith doctrine. Give to the pastor an anointed vessel, and God is obligated to multiply it back to you. T.D. Jakes called it putting God in debt to him. Copeland calls it divine law. That is not Christianity. That is a Ponzi scheme with a Bible verse on it. The only person consistently getting rich is the man at the top. The givers keep waiting for the harvest that never comes. He told a woman on food assistance she needed to tithe off her government benefits. And one of his associates told people to give on their credit card, saying that God speaking to you is proven by the fact that the money is on your credit card right now. Go into debt for God. That is what he said. And people did it because they were desperate. And desperation is the exploit these men have been running for 50 years. Step 2, the divine number call. I feel like there are 21 people in this building God is calling to give $1,000 tonight. Specific enough to feel prophetic, vague enough to be deniable, and socially engineered to make anyone who does not respond feel like they're disobeying God in front of their whole church community. Let me give you the word straight, because these men are counting on you not knowing it well enough to push back. 2 Peter 2:3. In their greed, these teachers will exploit you with fabricated stories. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them, and their destruction has not been sleeping. 1 Timothy 6:9-10. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Not money itself, the love of it. When you fall in love with the lifestyle, the jets, the compound, being treated like royalty everywhere you go, that love corrupts everything it touches, including the gospel you claim to preach. The prosperity gospel is not a version of Christianity. Paul said, add an adjective to the gospel and you have a different gospel. There is no prosperity gospel. There is one gospel, the power of God unto salvation. Everything else is fabricated stories used to exploit desperate people's faith. And here's the thing that should convict every one of us as American Christians. We are the most generous givers per capita on earth, which means that if the church were operating with genuine transparency, using those resources the way the actual gospel calls us to, we could solve the top 30 global social issues without touching anyone's bottom line. The poverty is not in the resource. The poverty is in the leadership that diverts the resource from God's people to their own private compound.
When Jesus walked into the temple and saw people making money off the name of God, he flipped over the tables and said, "Get out of my house." Before you write another check to any of these operations, know whether they file a 990. Know who's on the board. Know whether the people sending in letters ever actually get helped. Because God does not need your money to bless you. He's not waiting on your tithe to release your harvest. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He spoke the universe into existence. He needs nothing from you, and he loves you anyway. Any man who tells you other way has something he wants from your wallet. Until next time, stay rooted, stay real, stay in the Word, and give wisely. God bless y'all. Peace.